All right, David. We are starting a new series.
Yes.
Hopefully, it's successful, and we can just continue doing this. But essentially, maybe I should just let you explain what's going on here.
All right. So, welcome to DangIT Drinks. Hi, I'm David.
I'm Justin.
And we're here to talk about drinks and to also drink. Not necessarily soft drinks.
Not soft drinks, no. This is
But today we're drinking big boy drinks.
big boy drinks. So,
if you're under 21,
yes.
watch, but
but just don't actually partake in what we do unless you actually are of age and it's legal for you to drink. So, just a disclaimer right there.
All right, cool. That's kosher. If you're under 21, watch the first episode again. And I don't know what I'm talking about here.
What?
This is all just kind of off the cuff.
Okay.
I don't have anything written.
Okay, so we have a drink right here.
Yes.
And the idea of this series is that we're going to just kind of go by each of these drinks and just kind of talk about them, right?
Right.
Yeah, kind of like our podcast style, but it's just kind of off the cuff, as you say, just kind of our thoughts and collectives. As someone who is very familiar with drinking as a hobby versus me, who doesn't drink hardly at all. So it would be nice. It's a nice little collaboration, essentially. Dynamic, if you will.
It is my honor to turn you into an alcoholic.
Oh no. we're gonna see today. We're gonna see what. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do we got here?
You all know what this is. This is the most popular whiskey in America. It's probably the most popular whiskey in the world. It's Jack Daniel's Old Number 7.
Okay.
And so, actually, I'm gonna go ahead and pour it right now.
Sure.
And we'll wait a little bit. So, when I pour whiskey, I'm not gonna pour a whole lot. I like to let it sit for a little bit, so that it opens up a little bit. For those of you who are probably a bit more familiar with wine, you probably know the concept of letting something open up. So when a spirit's in a bottle like this, it doesn't have a whole lot of chance to oxidize. Of course, the lower the liquid gets in the bottle, the more it comes in contact with oxygen,
Right.
And so the chemical composition of the whiskey changes. Not to the point where it becomes a completely different liquid, but often to the point where the flavor starts to change a little bit. And when you pour it out to the glass, you're exposing it to much more oxygen, so it oxidizes. And it doesn't necessarily make it bad, but it makes new flavors hidden within the whiskey kind of come out.
Oh, okay.
So that's what we're doing here. But, I'm just kind of going off the gun. You guys probably have no idea what I'm talking about. First of all, what the fuck is whiskey?
Okay.
So whiskey is, because that's what this is it's a spirit that's been distilled from, it can be distilled from just about anything. This in particular is bourbon whiskey. So it's distilled from a mash bill of mostly corn, more than half corn, and usually rye and barley. For Jack Daniel's, I think it's something like 80% corn, like 14% barley, and the rest is rye. So we would say that, well, if Jack Daniel's didn't meet the specifications to be a bourbon whiskey, it would be classified as an American whiskey or a corn whiskey. And that's actually the funny thing about Jack Daniel's, right? Is that if you look on the bottle, it'll say that it's Tennessee sour mash whiskey.
Yeah.
So that raises a bunch of questions now that we know that Jack Daniel's is whiskey. Oh, and also whiskey, of course, is aged in barrels. Jack Daniel's specifically is aged in charred American oak barrels for at least 2 years. But Jack Daniel's likes to brand itself as you probably can't see this, it's too small, but it brands itself as a Tennessee whiskey, right? So, of course, that means it's made in Tennessee.
Okay.
But Tennessee prides itself on having kind of a different way of making whiskey than the rest of the United States. So it uses what's called the Lincoln County process, which is where, so after you distill that mash of grains into alcohol, you filter it through charcoal sugar maple chips, and that's supposed to remove impurities from the liquid.
Okay.
And then you store it in barrels. Whereas bourbons that aren't Tennessee whiskeys don't filter before they go into the barrel for aging. And there are a lot of people who say that no, Jack Daniels isn't a bourbon, it's Tennessee whiskey, but it follows that all Tennessee whiskeys can be bourbon, but not all bourbons can be Tennessee whiskeys. Because Jack Daniels meets all the other requirements to be a bourbon. And that to be a bourbon, it needs to be at least 51% corn. And it needs to be aged in new American oak barrels for at least 2 years. Jack Daniels does that, so legally it's a bourbon. But for the sake of marketing and exclusivity, it's a Tennessee whiskey.
Okay, fair enough. So how long do we have to have these sit? I mean, it depends on the person, but you know.
So the general rule of thumb is 1 minute for every year it's been aged. But most people just age it. They let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes or so.
Wow.
But I mean, if you let it sit out for like the remainder of this podcast, because it's probably not going to be that long, this one episode, yeah, it's fine. It's still going to be whiskey at the end of the day. But so the reason I want to start off with Jack Daniels first, now that we have a vague idea of what Jack Daniels is, after my haphazard description of what all of this stuff is, it's kind of like social currency, right? Like, if you could, I'm just gonna say that was an earthquake.
Yes. One heads.
But like, you could say that like Jack Daniels is the dollar bill of whiskey currency. If Pappy Van Winkle is a crisp $100 bill, Jack Daniels is a $1 bill.
Okay.
It's not to say it's bad, but it definitely has certain connotations with it, right? Like, what do you think when you think Jack Daniels?
Well, from my perspective, and not knowing much about like alcohol beverages, Jack Daniels is something that's always mentioned like in TV ads and whatnot. So it's something that people can associate with and just kind of, even if they don't know what it is, they can just like know off the top of their heads like, oh, I've heard of this before. Mm-hmm. So it had that reputation already, with different like advertisements. It's probably paired up with like a lot of sports and whatnot during like intervals and whatnot.
Oh, and did you see Kingsman 2?
I did not. No.
Oh, so Kingsman 2 had thick advertisement for Jack Daniels.
Oh, really?
Because Brown Foreman, the man who owns the Jack Daniels distillery, bought some advertisement space in Kingsman. And for those who haven't seen it, I won't spoil too much. It takes place. Well, there's this parallel spy agency in the U.S. called the Statesman, right? Mm-hmm. And it's in Kentucky. And their cover is they're a whiskey distillery. Mm-hmm. And so there's lots of references to whiskey throughout the movie, but it's all Brown Foreman products. So it's all Jack Daniels Tennessee Honey, Gentleman Jack, and Old Forester, which isn't Jack Daniels, but it's a Brown Foreman product. Anyway, probably don't see Kingsman 2. It wasn't really a good movie.
It's so sad. I was about to say like, I thought we might have watched that. Oh, could have done a discussion on that, but okay.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
All right. TLDR it.
But anyway, about the whiskey. So, what do you think about people who drink Jack Daniels? Like, what's the image that comes to mind?
I guess just a stereotypical image of what I see people when they drink whiskey or beer. It's kind of the same thing. They're at a bar. They might be talking to one or two people. They're probably talking to the bartender about whatever. And it's usually on the range of, if I'm going to be specific, something like very lighthearted or something like, fuck this guy. But yeah, they're usually like, I usually imagine them like already just halfway there, or they're just overexerting themselves when they do it. It's like, another,
one more. Ooh. All right, so why don't we go ahead and
shall we get?
Yeah. Oh boy, I'm gonna drink alcohol on my TV.
Oh no. Well, it's not TV, so it's good. It's good, okay. Hashtag demonetized.
So, I believe the traditional way of drinking Jack Daniels is to slam it and then slam your glass so it shatters.
We're not gonna slam it, but
we're gonna slowly sip it. So,
we're gonna slowly sip it? Alright, this, again, like, the only type of alcohol like I've ever had is like beer. That's it. And I don't like beer. So we're gonna see. We're gonna learn today.
Alright, so what's
it definitely
the
smells. It definitely smells like rubbing alcohol. That's what I get out of it.
That's what everyone says when they try like hard liquor for the first time.
Sure.
Like, oh, it smells like rubbing alcohol. Which, I mean, of course,
it's alcohol.
It's 40% alcohol, and we'll get into that story after we taste it a little bit. But
okay, shall we just?
I'm getting like peanut butter, maybe like a little bit of caramel, and
caramel.
Like some vanilla that you usually get with the bourbon.
Sure.
And whenever I like sniff Jack Daniels for the first time when I pour it into the glass, I always get like this subtle like barbecue smokiness. Like if someone fired up the smoker in the backyard and it just like comes wafting into the room.
Okay.
You just get like a little bit of that.
The scent's starting to subside off with me. All right. So. Whew.
Oh yeah, that's all familiar. Like right as it hits my tongue, I get kind of like this. I don't know. It's very nostalgic. It's like somewhere between like Smarties and Red Vines, like this weird candied flavor, and like there's some warm spice with banana, like banana bread and candy. It's like it tastes.
It's the whole combination of things.
It tastes like something that would have been meant for a kid if there wasn't this subsequent alcohol burn, right? But
yeah, I was just starting to feel that like rising up and then also like just kind of subsiding like around this area.
Wow. And the finish is just like it disappears. So like
right.
We talk about the finish when we're describing like whiskey, wine, or beer. That's the taste sensation you get after it goes down your throat, and when you exhale, you get like this lingering aroma.
Right.
Like after you swallow, that's called the finish. But with Jack, like the finish, it just disappeared. Like you get it on the palate, you swallow, and then it's just gone.
Yeah, like the taste itself just like subsides, but I do get that little rush that forces me to exhale. Right. And then if I drink too much like I did the first time, I just feel like this burning sensation slowly like going down to the chest area.
And that actually
also subsides.
Goes away after a while. Because like the burning sensation you get from drinking alcohol comes from it dissolving your mucous membranes like in your throat and in your mouth. So you have like those thin membranes that prevent things from hurting the inside of your throat and inside your mouth. But your body adapts the more you drink, right? So your membranes get thicker and thicker and they resist the burn more and more. Not to say that you all should just like chug a bottle of Everclear until you can feel no burn anymore. Please don't do that. But it's something you kind of get when you have like good sustained drinking. Good sustained moderate drinking.
Yes.
By the way.
Moderate.
I don't want to encourage too much. I mean, I certainly encourage all of you who are over the age of 21 to like go and think about things as like culturally ubiquitous and simple as Jack Daniels, and really think about like what it tastes like and why you think about it the way you do. So I think like after you've kind of like sipped on Jack Daniels for a bit, your opinion starts to change a little bit because you're thinking about it more. I mean, my overall opinion of Jack Daniels is still that it's kind of overrated, not very good whiskey. But I mean, I can see why people like it. I can see why people who sit down and sip their whiskey like it. And I can certainly see why people who just chug it back like it. Because to use like an overused whiskey term, it's pretty smooth.
I mean, this is my first time, so I don't have anything for reference.
But now everything you drink will be compared to Jack Daniels.
Oh, damn. Well, I mean, if it's going to be like at that low level, then anything above it will be better, right?
Yeah.
So
initially, I was going to start off with like a bourbon series where you drink like a normal proofed bourbon, a bonded bourbon, and a barrel proof bourbon, which is anywhere between like 60 and 70% alcohol. Ooh. Well, I don't want to start anyone off on that.
Yeah, let's not. This is 40%, right? So just like, okay. Yeah. And you can feel it.
Sure. Right. The funny story is that, so right now, Jack Daniels is 40%. You go to your supermarket, you go to the store, you pick out Jack Daniels.
And some Robin Pringles.
It's the same as 40 million Pringles, each 1% alcohol. I don't know. But Jack Daniels used to be 45% alcohol or 90 proof. Mm-hmm. And apparently they made a big difference. So, okay, well, first of all, what does it mean to be 40% alcohol? What does it mean to have proof? So I can say all liquor sold in the U.S. needs to be at least 40% alcohol. Proof is just double the alcohol content. So if whiskey or vodka is 40% alcohol, it's 80 proof.
Okay.
I think there are competing stories on like where the term proof came from. The one I choose to accept comes from pirates. How like they would pour alcohol over gunpowder, and if the gunpowder would still ignite, then the alcohol was proven alcohol.
Okay.
So it stood up to proof. As to how it was twisted into like, oh, proof is just like twice the ABV. I don't know how I got there. I just like to believe it started with pirates.
I was thinking like we should probably finish this one.
Chug, 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 chug. Ooh. Now that I'm going down, I'm starting to get more of like the barbecue chip. And you kind of get like this mineral note. Like people associate this more with Dickel Tennessee whiskey, but I get with Jack Daniels too. Like if you ever when you were a kid, did you have Flintstone vitamins? Like
I've seen them before. But never had them.
You get like this small note of chewable multivitamins, like the chalky, like this weird chalky flavor, which I think some people attribute to the charcoal filtering, but I don't know. I'm not sure that charcoal really influences flavor, especially like before barrel aging. But hell, I could be wrong. I actually don't know much about whiskey. I'm a fraud.
Oh wow, we went on for like how long? Like 20 minutes now? I don't even know. I really don't know.
Oh yeah, we don't. Do we even have a timer out?
We don't have a timer now.
Oh,
I should probably set it up just for the camera.
People enjoy us talking about whiskey, I guess, but Jack Daniels has really grown on me.
Oh yeah.
I can't really say it's a bad whiskey. Because it's not. There are certainly whiskeys that I prefer over Jack Daniels. Tennessee whiskeys that I prefer over Jack Daniels. But if I was at a party where there was nothing but Jack Daniels, I wouldn't say no to it.
Sure.
I would slow down and sip on it. Well, I mean, if it was a party, maybe I'd drink a little bit faster. But in general, I usually don't like to drink to get buzzed.
Sure.
Which is like always counterintuitive because in my house I have this giant collection of whiskey, and the first thing people assume is like, "Wow, are you an alcoholic?" I'm like, I haven't been drunk since college.
And technically, you kind of still are.
It's different. I'm a grad student. I need this to live. It's not an addiction. Fuck you.
But I don't know. This is like my first time trying it out, and by the way, I'm good with just that. By the way.
Okay, you don't want to test any of the other stuff we got, or do you just want to like sip off of mine?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
All right. Well, we certainly do have other whiskeys that I'll example today. Making just like 3 episodes today because these are a bit longer than I anticipated, but I think that's all that can really be said about old Jack Daniels number 7. Social currency, it certainly lives up to being $1. Doesn't necessarily make it worthless. And I mean, if you see it for reasonable price, I wouldn't say no to it. I mean, I think it's all overpriced, even at what, $23 you can usually find it at now. Because there are certainly other whiskeys you can get for cheaper that are better than Jack Daniels. But if it's offered to you, I wouldn't say no.
I mean,
unless you really don't want to drink.
Yeah, that was astonishing. I didn't know the pricing of it or anything like that. So when if there are cheaper whiskeys, and what would you say would be like a cheap whiskey amount or price?
So compared to Jack Daniels or Jack Daniels number 7, if you wanted a cheaper Tennessee whiskey, that was on par with Jack Daniels, I would go with Dickel number 8. Yeah, Dickel's a really stupid name, but it's a good Tennessee whiskey. If you wanted still to stay within like bourbon range, but not be a Tennessee whiskey, Wild Turkey 101 is about $20 for a fifth. A fifth is 750 milliliters, which is about how big this bottle is. Or Evan Williams, which is like $15 for a fifth. And Evan Williams Bottled and Bond, which is like $17 for a fifth. And we'll talk about what bottled and bond means in a later episode when I actually bring a whiskey that's been bottled and bond. But until then, I think we're good on old Jack Daniel number 7.
Yeah. I guess to put my opinion out there, I mean, this is the first time I tried whiskey, so it's like, it's definitely different from beer. Mm-hmm. It just kind of comes at you like first impression, but then slowly dies down like after you take a little bit more. And so, I mean, as far as the taste, I don't really taste much of anything, thank goodness, because I didn't like beer for that. But definitely that rising feeling that you get like from your chest, like from like the nostrils to the chest. I think I now have a better understanding why people partake in this, especially like when they do want to get buzzed.
Yeah. This definitely gets you drunk faster than beer. Well, for some people, like when I drink like a couple of glasses of whiskeys, I usually do just 1 ounce pours when I'm drinking. I usually don't feel anything, but if I like drink a 12-ounce beer, it hits me a lot faster. Maybe because I'm drinking it faster, even though it's lower ABV and there's just more of it. Then you feel it more. Maybe it's just because I associate it with those nights in Tokyo at like the Welcome to Japan and sayonara parties. Hey, David, have a chugging contest with me. All right. Another guy comes up. Hey, David, have a chugging contest with me.
Okay.
All right. But despite all that, I still like beer.
Despite all that. All right. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it, right?
Yep.
So yeah, for just this episode, just covering Jack Daniels, and we'll probably do another one of those like on the shelf later on. Although I don't think not today. That was my first take, and I was like, Are
you feeling it, Mr. Krabs?
I'm not sure what I'm feeling right now. I feel a little bit more aroused now. Even though no, David couldn't. But no, what was interesting is that I actually had a sore throat before drinking that, and it just kind of like numbed it out.
Yeah, that's what it does.
I was like, wow, impressive. すごい. 6 out of 10. Maybe not try it again. But you know what? Maybe when I have a sore throat. All right, but yeah, I guess we'll just end it here, and we'll just end it here. All right. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next episode where we cover whatever David has in store.
All right, cue the outro. Yeah. See ya.